is that? Yee! We getting it, boy.
What's good? You know who it is. It's your boy, Jay in the Bay.
Your baller back again. Smells like football season.
Yo.
Yeah.
Whoa.
What's up, YouTube? This is Straight Out of the Bay, where we break down all things 49ers. Right now, you got half the crew. I'm joined by my man, Amin the Dream. Amin, it's nice to see you. How was your day today?
It was a good day. It was a good day. Like Ice Cube once said, today was a good day. So can't complain.
Love it. Hey, nice to see you. Nice to have you on. We haven't talked ball since this Thanksgiving Day game where the Niners obviously dominated the Seahawks on Thanksgiving Day. It was nice to return the favor, Amin, and eat some Thanksgiving Day food on their field because I had been pretty ticked off when they did that to us some years ago. So I liked how we returned the favor and they had a full table out there. Like there was a lot of guys.
I wish we were like on the Seattle logo. We had the table going. We started eating on their logo. They kind of moved us to the side a little bit, like near the sidelines.
Yes. We had a lot of dudes.
That's true.
We had a lot of dudes out there. That's what I like to see, right? Obviously, Debo, Kittle was there, Christian McCaffrey, Brock Purdy. Like we had some guys out there, devouring some Thanksgiving Day food, and that was awesome. But getting back to the game, I want to talk about some of the standouts just because, I haven't talked to you since the game. So, like, who were your big-time performers in this 49ers win?
I mean, I'm going to go with the obvious one, but that's Charvarius Ward. Like, he was making DK Metcalf his son out there. Like, on any time they would target Charvarius Ward, either, he would knock it down. And, like, he was just, like, DK Metcalf couldn't do nothing. And that's one guy that when the Niners play the Seattle Seahawks, DK Metcalf usually has himself a pretty solid game, gets himself a touchdown, gets himself some big catches. He couldn't do nothing. And that's the first time, probably in the Shanahan era, where DK Metcalf has gone up against the 49ers, and he has been straight up unsuccessful, completely unsuccessful. So, Charvarius Ward definitely gets the game ball. He definitely they were saying it on NBC, on the NBC, when the game was live, they were like, he deserves a turkey leg. He gets a turkey leg. So Charvarius Ward, he earned himself a turkey leg the way that he played. And props to Kyle Shanahan, because, like, if I was Kyle Shanahan, I would tell Charvarius Ward to be on DK Metcalf. But then, like Ward said post-game, he was like, it was Kyle Shanahan who came up to me pre-game and was like, yo, I want you on DK Metcalf today. And he did himself a pretty darn good job against DK Metcalf. So Charvarius Ward definitely deserves himself a game ball.
No doubt. How many pass breakups did he have guarding DK Metcalf?
Yeah.
Like at least like 4 of them, and the sticky coverage was there. And what was frustrating, because Charvarius had like a 3-game stretch in the not so distant future, or the past, in the not so distant past, where he was flagged 7 times in those 3 games. And what was frustrating is we know how good Charvarius Ward can be. So it was just, and we had talked about it on here. We're like, Mooney, you got to clean that up. Take your hands off these receivers. And he did that against the Seahawks. And he showed, like, if he plays like that, that's like a top 5 cornerback in the NFL. Like there's not too many lockdown corners, but when Mooney Ward is playing that style, press man, just being sticky. He's right there. He's breaking up passes. Like he played like a top 5 corner, and it was refreshing to see because it's like we know he has it in him. And he cleaned up the penalties, so that was awesome. I'm glad that was the first guy you brought up. But a player I want to touch on, was Christian McCaffrey. Like McCaffrey's been good all year, but especially like since it was a Thursday night game, it's a quick turnaround. These guys' bodies probably haven't fully healed, from the previous game. But I thought McCaffrey looked explosive Like there were a couple times where it looked like the Seahawks might have him for like a short gain, and then he just accelerated, and I was like, oh, McCaffrey had some juice. I thought he was moving really well. He was really efficient running the rock. He finished 19 carries for 114 yards. That's 6 yards a carry. That's huge. And then we know what kind of safety blanket Christian McCaffrey is in the passing game. He added another 5 receptions for 25 yards. So McCaffrey, I thought he was dynamic, explosive, and then Charvarius Ward, he was locked down. And you got any? I got a couple other guys I want to bring up.
I got a couple other guys also.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give a game ball to Kyle Shanahan because I remember saying a couple of weeks ago, the last time I was on here, like when we were on that losing streak, I was like, the offense kind of looked a little bit dull. The offense doesn't really look, Kyle really isn't in his bag right now. And the last 2 weeks, especially Thursday night, I mean, like the first drive, Kyle was putting on a clinic. Like the Niners were running the ball at ease, they were finding open gaps, they were just toying with the Seahawks defense. Like Kyle Shanahan, especially in that first half, Kyle Shanahan was in his bag in that first half. And credit to Brock Purdy and the guys for executing, but Kyle Shanahan came out, especially on that opening drive, with just a phenomenal game script for that first opening drive. Niners executed it to perfection, but Kyle Shanahan definitely from that losing streak, you definitely see the clear. It's like night and day from when we were on that 3-game losing streak of what the offense looked like to what it's looking like now, especially what it was like on Thursday night. It kind of slowed down a little bit in the second half. Credit to the Seahawks defense for making the adjustments coming out in the second half, but still, Niners put up another 30-piece? It was another 30-piece against the Seattle Seahawks, and Kyle Shanahan definitely bounced back. And then Brock Purdy, like that throw to Ayuk, there was 4 defenders in the area. Like that was perfect. Can we please stop calling Brock Purdy a system quarterback? Like Brock Purdy deserves to be in the MVP conversation. If you really watch Niner football games and you really watch Brock Purdy play, and you see the difference between Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy, you can't say it's the system. Jimmy Garoppolo is the system. With Brock Purdy, there's no way it's a system that makes Brock Purdy successful. Now, does it help for any quarterback to have Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk? Sure, but as a quarterback, you also got to make the decisions. You also got to be accurate with the football. And Brock Purdy does all those things on top of not making too many mistakes. And that's what he does. So, Brock Purdy, I mean, he's definitely better than Jimmy Garoppolo. And it's not the system. It's not what people, when people say it's the system or because he has so much talent or it's Kyle Shanahan. If you really watch the difference between Jimmy Garoppolo's tenure with the 49ers and what Brock Purdy has done so far, it's night and day the differences of how damn good Brock Purdy is and of how good Jimmy Garoppolo is with the 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo is clearly the system, whereas Brock Purdy, and I'll even go on the line, I'll say this. If the Jets had Brock Purdy, they would be in contention for a playoff spot. And potentially they would still be in the running to maybe even win that division. Like if Brock Purdy, that's how highly I think of Brock Purdy. Because the Jets, I'm going a little bit off subject, but the Jets just need a competent quarterback. Like the Jets are a talented team. They have a really darn good defense. You have Garrett Wilson, you have Breece Hall, but the Jets don't have a competent quarterback. Sorry, not to diss on your guy Zach Wilson, but Zach Wilson ain't getting it done, and then Tim Boyle ain't that much better. Like he ain't that much better. So
Tim Boyle he is not better.
He really isn't.
I'm still rolling with my boy Zach there, but I know I was a big Zach Wilson guy, and rightfully so. You've kind of beaten me up for it. I got to make some adjustments to how I evaluate quarterbacks. So I appreciate you for keeping me honest, but I just don't want to see Bob Saleh get scapegoated, get fired, because the defense, like you said, the defense is good. He's got that defense playing well, but what is this, year 3 for him sometimes, after 3 years, they'll kind of get you out the door if you haven't gotten it done. But I agree with you. It's more of the quarterback play as opposed, and it's like, that's not Rob Saleh's thing. And Rob didn't draft Zach Wilson, right? That's the GM.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, that's the thing about Zach Wilson. That's the funny thing about Zach Wilson, and it's a little bit off topic, right? But, Zach Wilson, at least 2 years before the draft, or, maybe 8 months, let's say 8 months before the draft, Justin Fields was mock number 2 on everybody's draft board. It was Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields. And then Zach Wilson had that one good season at BYU. Not 2 good years, not 3 good years, that one great year at BYU, and then he jumped up the rankings, and he, overtook Justin Fields, and everybody's like, Zach Wilson. And, that's the thing even about pro days, right? Zach Wilson also got a bunch of hype from his pro day, and like the throws that he was making on his pro day, rolling out, making like these like really great passes on his pro day, and I'm like, cool, like that's all great, but like, can he read the defense? Can he, be accurate with the football? Can he hit tight windows? And like Zach Wilson, I mean, I would play Zach Wilson if I was the Jets because this season's over for you guys. Like it's straight up over. Like give the guy, let him play, let him develop, let him get better, let him get live reps in game. Your season's over. And I don't think Tim Boyle's much better. I don't even think he is better than Zach Wilson watching that game. And like, have you seen Tim Boyle's college stats?
No.
They're garbage. Like he had it's like a 2 touchdown to 9 interception ratio. It's bad. Like I don't even know how Tim Boyle's in the NFL. Like if you look at the stat sheet alone, which a lot of people look at the stat sheets and people say stats don't lie. If you look at the stats, like he really ain't that great.
I feel you. Now, bringing it back to the Thanksgiving Day game, I want to talk about Ambry Thomas. I thought both him and Charvarius Ward were really good. I mean, this defense absolutely shut down Geno Smith in that Seahawk offense. Geno was sacked 6 times. Like they were getting after him. He was not comfortable in the pocket, but also part of that, right? We've mentioned the D line and the DBs. They're a cohesive unit. If one's playing well, that's going to help out the other one. So when the D line's generating pressure and the DBs are sticky, but Ambry, he had that interception. I want to say it was in the first quarter where he jumped an out route, and it was like that made me say, "Wow!" Because just how fast he reacted and broke on that route, I thought was incredible. So Ambry, hey man, I'm sorry, Ambry, because I was a doubter of him. In the preseason or in training camp, I was saying, I'm not sure if he's even going to make this team. I was wrong. Ambry's been playing well ever since, and I love that adjustment that Steve Wilks made. He was taking a lot of heat. Rightfully so. This defensive unit has so much talent. Wasn't quite getting it done, but after the bye, feels like he's made some adjustments in terms of. I call it mugging the gap, right? You see those linebackers up by the line of scrimmage. It looks like he's playing some more press man, the 5-man fronts back. So I love the adjustments that Steve Wilks has made post-bye. And, Ambry Thomas going into that starting cornerback position, man, that was another adjustment that he made.
Yep, and I mean, you've seen the difference of when Steve Wilks has been on the sideline, especially the last 2 weeks, from when he was up in the booth, right? And Steve Wilks isn't, we all know this, but he isn't the D'Amico, he isn't the Robert Saleh, he isn't a super energetic type. But I feel like the guys like when, their DC's on the sideline, giving them feedback live in game, and the defense has definitely played better. Like, the pass rush was going nuts. I feel like they always go crazy against Geno, but, and the defense always does really well against Geno Smith. He always struggles against the 49ers, but, dude, they when some of the sacks that the Niners got, there would be 4 guys at Geno at the same time. Like the pass rush would hit, 3 or 4 guys would be there all at the same time.
It was almost like, who do you give the sack to?
Yeah, who do you give the sack to? I'm like, who do you give the sack to? It's both sides. It's Armstead. They both here. They both grabbing his legs. They both taking him down. Who you giving the sack to? Is it 0.5, 0.5? Who you giving the sack to? They're all here.
No doubt. And
I gotta give credit to one more guy.
Please.
Mitch Wishnowsky.
Yo, no. That was going to be my next guy, but go ahead. Go ahead.
Jay in the Bay was right. No Mitch slander. And I remember clearly stating a point. I'm like, did the 49ers really have to pay Mitch Wishnowsky? He isn't Matt Ariza. He isn't, he isn't a ridiculous prospect. He's a punter. Did we really have to pay him? Mr. Wishnowsky, I sincerely apologize from the bottom of my heart. You proved me wrong. He was going crazy. He was hitting it in the 10-yard line. He's been doing it the entire season. But Mitch Wishnowsky, I don't know if he watches the show. I don't know if you heard us during that segment. But Mitch Wishnowsky this season, he's been going crazy. I apologize, Mitch Wishnowsky. No Mitch Wishnowsky slander will be tolerated on these streams from now on.
No.
You earn my respect, man. You earn my respect.
Facts. Yeah, I got that noted too. Like I said, Mitch, he had a ball that was downed at the 2-yard line, He had a ball that was downed at the 6-yard line, another one at the 12. Like he's pinning teams back, and that's tough. Like that is a weapon. It's an asset. The Niners dominated field position the whole game. I mean, like when you start your drive at the 2-yard line, I want to find out the statistic on like how often, if you start a drive at the 2, like how often are you punching that into the end zone? Because I imagine it ain't very often. If I said 10%, 10% of drives that start at the 1 or the 2 end up in a touchdown, would you take the over or the under on that?
I would take the over.
You think over 10%? Okay.
Oh, I mean like under 10%. I thought you were
under
asking.
10%.
Yeah,
I got you.
Yeah,
Under
easily,
10. Yeah, it's hard to do. It's hard to do.
Yeah.
And just the Niners, they dominated the field position all game long. The defense was dominant. The Seahawks, they couldn't do anything on offense. Their only touchdown was, a pick 6 thrown by Brock. It was probably the only play that was like, yeah, you want that one back. He left the ball up high to McCaffrey and it got tipped up. And then Jordan Brooks, the linebacker for the Seahawks, caught it. And, he didn't have very far to go. But even then, that shows you like how much trust Kyle Shanahan has in Brock Purdy. Because normally if that was Jimmy back there, it's like you hide Jimmy, and then if you don't hide Jimmy, it ends up being a pick 8. But with Brock, Kyle was throwing it. It's like your team's backed up. I'm thinking we're just going to run it, try to get to the 5, get to the 7-yard line, get some space to operate. But Kyle was winging it, and it led to the interception. And here we go. Let's check on. Let's say what's up to Rich Kelch. What's going on?
Yeah. What's up, y'all?
Hey, nice to see you. We're still on, the Niners Seahawks game. We talked about some standouts. Ambry Thomas was the first one brought up, rightfully so. I talked about how McCaffrey looked explosive. I thought McCaffrey's burst was back, especially on that short week. But it was just a strong performance on Thanksgiving. But
hey, Baller, I have a question for you. I have a question for the crew real quick.
Please.
I mean, one thing about Mitch real quick, though, is that, like, what made it even more impressive is, like, Mitch is doing this from, like, the 50-yard line. Like, he isn't doing this all the way backed up. Like, he's doing this from the 50. And, like, usually, like, when kickers do kick it from, like, the 50 or, like, half, like, midfield, it's usually a touchback most of the time, right? Because it's, like, it's hard to get it where you're, like, you don't want to kick it too hard. You don't want to kick it with too little power, right? But, like, he gets it perfect a lot of the time. And he's pinning teams, like you said, in, like, the 5-yard line, 10-yard line, multiple times per game. But that's the thing about Kyle Shanahan. When you look at the offense with Brock Purdy, is that usually the identity of this 49ers offense is a run-first team. And with Brock Purdy, I don't know if you could really say this 49ers team is really good at running the football, but you can't really say, I personally don't think you could say definitively that this 49ers offense is a run-first team anymore. Because if you really look at it, Brock Purdy's throwing the ball at least 30 times a game. Right, and Kyle Shanahan is airing the ball out more. He trusts Brock Purdy to throw the football more, like you said, backed up in their own red zone, backed up in their own end zone, and Kyle Shanahan's throwing the ball. Like with Jimmy Garoppolo, it would be a lot of the time where running backs would get 20, 30 carries, and they'd be running the football.
Because they're trying to hide him.
Yeah, they're trying to hide him, right? It would literally be running the football. Like the Niners drives, and it's still the same way a little bit now, but like the Niners drives would literally be. I remember when Jimmy Garoppolo was like one game where they pretty much took up almost the entire first quarter on their first drive, just running the football down the team's throat until they got to the red zone, and then they threw a little pass to Christian McCaffrey for a touchdown or whatever. But they would literally run the football down the field, and they took up like the entire first half just trying to move the ball downfield and not throw the ball. And just straight up running, pounding the football down.
Well, I'm for that. If you're moving the ball, running it down a team's throat, my philosophy is don't switch it up.
No, that's fine. I'm not saying I'm not for that, but I'm saying the difference now is that like Kyle Shanahan's throwing the ball, like he isn't, and like being backed up in your own red zone throwing the ball, like he's letting Brock Purdy throw the football more, and that's just the trust that I feel like Brock Purdy kind of earned in a way because how he doesn't make too many mistakes. Whereas Jimmy Garoppolo, he wouldn't read the field, he would be jittery, and he would rely on his playmakers to do a lot of the work. Whereas like the difference with Brock Purdy is that Brock Purdy will hit guys in stride. He'll hit Brandon Ayuk in stride. He'll hit George Kittle in stride. He'll hit these guys in stride. He'll make their lives a whole lot easier. Whereas like Jimmy Garoppolo, anytime you had a big play with Jimmy Garoppolo, a lot of the time it would be like screen pass to Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel took it 80 yards. 49ers had a 75-yard play right there. Whereas like with Brock Purdy, it's like down the sideline, he hits Kittle for like a 40-yard pass in the air, and then Kittle takes it to the house. It was a Brock Purdy throw that was a pretty darn good throw. Whereas like Jimmy, it's like, oh, screen pass to Debo. He took it 45 yards. That's great. We got a 50-yard play on that one. Whereas like Brock Purdy, it's like Brock Purdy's hitting the receivers in stride. He's hitting guys in stride. And because he's doing that, and because he also doesn't make that many mistakes, that's where I feel like Kyle Shanahan trusts him. And when you see the 49ers are being more willing to pass, I feel like with Brock Purdy under center, Kyle Shanahan trusts Brock Purdy enough to where he really runs the offense, and he really, he really plays. No, let me rephrase this. He really does what he wants on offense with Brock Purdy because he trusts Brock Purdy to go out there and execute his offense to a T, and Brock Purdy has shown the ability and has done that before. Whereas with Jimmy Garoppolo, it felt like Kyle Shanahan didn't really do that as much, or didn't really run his offense the way that he really wanted to, because he didn't trust Jimmy Garoppolo to go out there and execute that. Whereas with Brock Purdy, he fully trusts Brock Purdy to go out there and execute his offense. Like, you see Brock Purdy making audibles. Like, I remember going back to last year, Brock Purdy was making audibles at the line. Like, I don't think Kyle Shanahan trusted Jimmy enough to do that.
Facts. And I mean, we're about to dive into this Niners Eagles preview, but I want to say, hey, the chat is live. We appreciate all you guys for stopping by. Hit that like. That way we get even more people in here. So make sure you hit that like for me. And then, I mean, let's get into this 49ers and Eagles preview, because here's what I want to do. I want to go position by position, and we're going to say what position group is better. Niners, Eagles. And I want to start off with the quarterback position. Okay. Jalen Hurts right now, he's the favorite for the MVP as of right now. I mean, and Brock, I looked at the the MVP list, and Brock is like, he's like fifth or sixth behind Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes. Some places even have Tua and Dak ahead of Brock on the MVP list. I was kind of surprised to see that. But Brock Purdy, Jalen Hurts, who's better right now? I mean,
that's a tough one. That's a really tough one. I'm going to kick it to you. I'm going to play the Uno reverse card, and I'm going to kick it to you.
I love it. Because you know what? I mean, this is really freaking close, the way these two guys are playing ball. And I thought about taking the cop-out answer and calling it a wash or calling it a tie. But you know what? I'm not going to do that. You know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say the Eagles got this one. Jalen Hurts right now is a tad better than Brock Purdy. Well, I say it's really close. But here's why I'm also doing that. I mean, I'm using it as kind of a motivational tool for Brock. It's like, hey, Brock, you're playing really freaking good. I'll acknowledge that. But, hey, man, you ain't better than Jalen Hurts, And I'm hoping Brock takes that and is like, hey, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to go out there and show you I'm better than Jalen Hurts. So it's really close. I think these two guys, in my opinion, are the MVP favorites. Yeah. And it might come down to who wins this game or who gets that bye in the NFC. What sucks is that they felt like the Eagles should have lost both of these last two games. I mean, it was really frustrating, watching them beat the Chiefs. And then you think the Bills, they're up double digits. You think Josh Allen's going to get it done, and then a letdown. Eagles win. Nonetheless, Niners got to take care of business this week. But comparing the quarterbacks, slight edge. It's close. They're both playing really good ball. But I'm giving it to the Eagles and Jalen Hurts.
It's really tough, and like you said, it is really close. But this might be, I'm gonna go with Jalen Hurts. I'm gonna go with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, we've seen him play We've seen him play, and when the team has been down, we've seen him he has like 4 game-winning drives this year. His passer rating is actually surprisingly better when they're losing games to when they're actually winning games. I don't know. I've seen more from Jalen Hurts. I've seen him weather the storm. Whereas with Brock Purdy, he has that one game leading drive this year, but that obviously Jake Moody missed a field goal. But I don't know. It's just something about Jalen Hurts. I like that throw that he made to. It was like a third down. He rolled to his left, and he threw it in the back of the end zone to his receiver touchdown. Like there's certain things that Jalen Hurts does. Maybe because he's a little bit more athletically gifted than Brock Purdy, but there's certain things that Jalen Hurts does where you're like, damn, that was a really good throw. That was quarterback, making something out of nothing. Whereas Brock Purdy sometimes does that also, but I don't know. It's really close. I still think Brock Purdy deserves to be higher in the MVP category than Jalen Hurts. And the funny thing is, why don't people have the same what they say about Brock Purdy? Why don't they say the same thing about Eagles and Jalen Hurts? Because if you really think about it, if you really hypothetically think about it, the Eagles got a better O-line. I know we're going to talk about that later, but if you really look at the Eagles O-line, I think the Eagles O-line is better than the 49ers. You got Devontae Smith, you got A.J. Brown. You have DeAndre Swift, who is a pretty damn good running back, who's a Pro Bowler for the Lions. I'm not saying it's a scheme, but you have all the talent right there. So with the same people, what they say about Brock Purdy is that he has Debo, he has Christian McCaffrey, he has Brandon Ayuk. Like, dude, the Eagles and Jalen Hurts have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and like 3 Pro Bowlers on that offensive line. Where I don't get how it makes sense if you're gonna say it about one quarterback and not say it about the other.
Yeah, no, I know exactly where you're coming from because it's always one sided. People are always pointing the finger at Brock. But hey, Kelts, nice to see you. We were talking Niners, Seahawks. We talked about our standouts. CMC, Charvarius Ward, I think were the 2 that we were really hyped up about. Even Mitch Wishnowsky got some love because he's been pinning teams back. But before we get you to jump into this Niners Eagles preview, did you have some thoughts or some standouts from the Thanksgiving Day game?
And that's what you call a dot. That's what you call a dot right there.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. Especially to come back after throwing. Thanksgiving was busy at my house, and one of the few plays I did not see was the pick 6, and I still haven't seen it. So I tried to. I was gonna go back, and so I never even seen the pick 6. So in my mind, it doesn't exist, but the dot does exist. But from what I've heard, he came back. I did see the dot. I seen just about everything else, but yeah, man, that was a standout. CMC, obviously. What stood out to me too was that the 49ers can win on offense in multiple different ways. You never know whose day it's going to be, whether it's Ayuk, Debo, Kittle, 2 of them, 1 of them, 3 of them, CMC, and at full strength, the 49ers are undefeated, and not just undefeated, but they're handling teams. Dallas is getting looked at in a major way right now, and we beat the brakes off of them. So it's everything is pointing in the right direction. But I did get a little bit of a feeling of like when we beat Dallas, we were on that high horse, and then things kind of got weird. So I'm hoping we stay on this high horse. You know what I'm saying? But there's still a good amount of football left. Who knows? Maybe we might slide on one game here or there, but hey, we're rolling right now, so all things are good, man. It was beautiful at the end too, especially at the end, how and not just the guys who were getting the game balls, how they all were up there. I was just like, let's go, because before the game, I was calling for that. I was like, man, I want to see Greenlaw up there. Hey, if we can, I was thinking of the most ferocious 49ers. If we could get Kinlaw to talk, Greenlaw to talk, that would just be dope. You know what I'm saying? Just the
I've already seen
monsters.
Kinlaw talk with a mouthful before.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I need to see that again, but I
Especially with some
get
turkey,
your
yeah.
vibe.
Yeah. So, hey, man, it was lovely. Just the way they vibe too was vibing together, throwing the turkeys, throwing the drumsticks. I mean, you couldn't do much more than that without getting fined or suspended. So they went as far as you could go. They pulled a Draymond right there. So hey, all things are good, man. I'm late. Beside the fact my daughter just caught her first goose egg on her head, right before. That's why y'all see me take off, man. She got her first one, man. So, it was stressful for a minute, but she's getting checked out and she seems good. She seems good, but oddly, she was hella calm during the whole thing. That's why at first I thought just a cut broke or something, but she's like, nah, you know, took a tumble. So she's good. Everything's good. The Niners are good. And yeah, man.
Hey, glad to hear that.
Yes, sir.
When you got kids, it's like that's your precious joy.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like you always want the best for them,
Oh, yeah.
always. So glad to hear your thoughts on kind of recapping that Thanksgiving Day game. Now, what me and Amin just touched on, Celts, we're going position by position, and we're saying who's better at this position group. And the first one we started off was the quarterback position. Brock, Hurts, they're both playing a really good brand of ball. Hurts is the MVP favorite right now. Purdy is, he's in the top 4 or 5, depending where you look. But if I ask you, Celts, like, who is the better quarterback right now? Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy? Where would you go?
Stats say that Brock Purdy is the better quarterback right now. But, you can't really argue with 10-1, and they're finding ways to get it done. One thing that Brock hasn't been able to do this year is what Jalen Hurts seems to do every week is play from behind, come back, lead his team to victory, no matter how it looks. He could throw a pick, he could drop a fumble, and it seems like he finds a way to, and I like the way how Jalen Hurts, it doesn't seem like he's looking to use his legs, but when he does have the assertiveness to use them, he's going to go. All of a sudden, it looks like he's almost kind of lackadaisical in the pocket, but then every once in a while, you'll see him turn into a running back and he's gone, or, on the flip side, just making off schedule throws. Yeah, I do like the fact of Purdy's quickness. The more and more I look around the NFL, it just feels like Purdy's moving quicker or processing quicker. When it comes to just making his reads, I don't think anybody's better in the NFL. But then there are a few things that Jalen Hurts are better. They're just completely different, and they're both really freaking good right now. And of course, got to give the nod to Jalen Hurts, but Purdy's right there. If Purdy can start doing a little bit more in those tighter games, and show that he can really just like go and take the victory if need be, then it'll be a different conversation. But right now, it's got to go Hurts.
But Kels, to be fair though, the games that this 49ers team has won, they haven't really been down. And when they have been down, that Browns game, Brock Purdy did lead a game. He put the team in a position to win that game. The Raiders game last year, he did that, and they ended up winning that game. But when they have been down, except for that Vikings game, which he didn't, but he had the concussion, and then he threw that interception, but he had a concussion. But with those are special circumstances. But when he has been down and when he's been healthy, he has led game-winning drives in those 2 moments that he was in that situation. Whereas, with the Eagles have been down, and it almost feels like every week when they play, especially the last couple of weeks when they played the Bills and the Chiefs, when they've been down and Jalen Hurts comes back and they end up winning. But this 49ers team, when they do win, it's dominant. It's like double digits, 30 points on your head. We getting out of this victory with a comfortable victory. We don't really got to play from down. So this 49ers team really hasn't played from down except for 2 games. And in those 2 games, they obviously lost. But this week is going to be a challenge. This week, I could see the Niners playing down. And this week, a lot of questions will be answered because it's going to be a dogfight. But if this 49ers team is in a situation where they are playing down late in the 4th quarter, can Brock Purdy's offense come back and move the ball downfield to potentially put this team, and give it a shot to win? Because this is going to be a dogfight. This is definitely going to be a dogfight.
Game of the year.
It's going to have that
year
playoff atmosphere. it's gonna feel like a
Oh,
playoff game.
it's all the way better. It's all the way better from the Eagles fans, the way just even just all the little intangibles from Fred Warner's wife can't even go there anymore to Debo and Bradbury to Trent Williams, straight I almost said gorilla stomping, but straight just tossing dude down to just all of it, man. Hassan Reddick today, come through talking about they're always crying or whatever. But then on the flip side, after the Super Bowl, that's all you heard them do because the grass was slippery or whatever it was. I mean, they played on the same field, but hey, there was a lot of slipping. I didn't like it for both sides, but hey man, it's a heavyweight fight. It's gonna be a heavyweight fight, and I feel like it's kinda like for the fans, it's a heavyweight fight, but it's still kinda ain't, it's still not the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? But it would be huge to, with what Debo has said, to really to go in there and just have a full squad and for it to not come to excuses. That's what I'm kinda trying to say is that I just hope that we get to play a full game, both teams. I hope the penalties are out of it, injuries are out of it. I wanna see both squads full throttle and just see on that Sunday who's the best team. Like, I feel like it would go, 5 and 5 if they played 10 games, but I would not be surprised. I'll just give an early prediction. I wouldn't be surprised to see 31-17. And I know that sounds like, crazy. I just feel like we match up hella well versus the Eagles besides their offensive line. Besides their offensive line, I just feel like a lot of individual matchups. I feel like who's going to stop Kittle? Who's going to stop Ayuk? Like, I don't know. I just kind of
I
look
think
around.
Vegas agrees with you too, Kelts. Vegas
Yeah.
agrees with you. I was shocked that the Niners are favorites in this game. Like the Eagles are 10-1 at home, and you're gonna make the Niners road favorites. Like I was a little bit baffled by that. I mean, they say being at home is worth 3 points. So I guess that if the Niners were playing at home, they'd be 6-point favorites. I don't know.
It's crazy.
I
It's
was
kind
I
of
was
crazy
shocked.
for 10-1, 8-3, and I get it. We're rolling, and when we're rolling, I think that's what it is. Teams aren't looking at us or Vegas or whoever I almost said predictors, but the odd makers. They're not looking. They're looking at the Niners with Trent Williams and Debo, and those are two massive pieces to this 49ers offense. It feels like we go from, a little bit better and mediocre to a superpower when we're at full strength. And I think that's what they're looking at. I mean, we're 8-0 and slaughtering teams at full strength. So, hey.
All right, so all three of us gave
Hurts.
the Eagles the edge and Jalen Hurts the edge at the quarterback position. Let's go to that O line. We kind of previewed the O line. Eagles, they got a really freaking good offensive line. Let me just run it down. Jordan Mailata is the left tackle. He's having a good year. Landon Dickerson, Jason Kelsey, fellas. I mean, he's the best center in the NFL. Like the way, and still he's getting up there, but the way he moves and blocks and gets to the second level on some of these run plays, outstanding.
He's the sexiest man too, isn't he, or something like that? I know I seen something.
He lost to Kelsey. He lost to his brother or something like that.
Oh shit, poor guy.
And to round it out, they got Lane Johnson at right tackle. You got to figure they're going to let him jump early. Let him just jump out.
Yeah,
early.
you mean Mr. False Start. Mr. False Start.
They got squad, man. They got a couple of at least 2 Hall of Famers right there, and then 3, probably above average guys. Man. So I mean, that's hey.
Yeah. So I think we're all probably gonna give the edge to the Eagles in terms of the offensive line. I mean,
Eagles. I mean, you have Landon Dickerson, who's you could say he's a solid offensive lineman, but you have Jason Kelsey, who's a Hall of Famer, Pro Bowler. You have Jordan Mailata, who's a Pro Bowler. You have Lane Johnson, who's a Pro Bowler. You got 3 guys right there. You got your middle of your offensive line and both, the outside of your offensive line, right tackle and left tackle, that are all Pro Bowlers. You got 3 Pro Bowlers on that offensive line. So, I mean, it's easily the Eagles. I don't really think that's a debate. It's not even up for discussion. Like, you can't even argue that the Niners have a better offensive line. The only discussion that can be made is Trent Williams is better than Jordan Mailata. But outside of that, I would take the Eagles' offensive line over the 49ers any day of the week.
I did see the Chiefs be able to get home though. It looked like they had some good momentum, you know, with who was it, Jones, and
Yeah,
obviously they got a Menu now and
Karloftis. They had
Karlaftis.
some good blitzes.
They were
That's what I
getting
noticed
home.
too. I've noticed when you strategically have those right blitzes called at the right time, you can affect Jalen Hurts, and he
Yeah.
doesn't see the field quite as well, right? Like I saw Devontae Adams open a couple times, but just because the pass rush, Hurts is kind of worried about the bodies around him. He's not reading the field that well. So you're
Mhm.
right. Timely blitzes, getting some pressure that can definitely affect Hurts's effectiveness. But all of us gave the Eagles the edge in terms of this offensive line position. Well, let's go to one. I think we're gonna lean Niners here. But
Real quick.
what's up? What's up?
Man, it makes me want to give Brock Purdy even more props just because of, besides Trent, and I always hear Trent and then everybody else, but really it's Trent and Aaron Banks. Aaron Banks isn't no just anybody, I don't feel like. But it's Trent, Banks, and the other guys are solid. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna say they suck. I'm not gonna say
No,
they're but for a Super Bowl, contending team. You would want it to be like the Philadelphia Eagles, but it makes me want to give Brock even more props, for him not playing behind the best offensive line and putting up these kind of numbers for his stature. I mean, he is a smaller dude
it's a good
playing
point.
behind kind of a thrown together offensive line, and he's still putting up these kind of numbers in game 17. Let's go, Brock.
That's a great
I
point.
had to give him a little bit more love.
That's a great point. And you know who I want to show some love to because I almost glossed over him, but Feliciano. Man, I think Feliciano
sir.
deserves to be playing, kind of locked in at the right guard position. Guys, I watched the tape back a couple days ago of Niners Seahawks, and I saw a block that Feliciano made. Brendel started getting pushed back by his D tackle. Feliciano sticks out his left arm to help out Brendel. And then there's another defensive lineman that's trying to get past him on the right side. He sticks out his right arm and he's just blocking two guys with each with one arm.
Is that
And
the
it
one
was
where
it was
did he
awesome.
fall back? Did he eventually
No,
fall back? But
no, no.
that was
He held his ground. He held his ground.
hell
Helped out
yeah.
Brendel. Boom. Stonewalled another guy. I'm like, oh my God,
You got to clip
Feliciano's an
that.
animal.
I got to go
Well,
watch that one. Yeah,
yeah,
I got to go watch the. Yeah.
I'll try to find that and cut it up and send it to you. The only guy who I remember seeing that a Niner was Big Mike Iupati. Like Big Mike used to do stuff like that where he's just one arm here, stopping in the gut. But Feliciano did it, and I was like, whoa, that was nice. So shout out to Feliciano. I do think he's an upgrade at the guard position. Not that Spencer Burford was playing bad, but I think Feliciano's just better.
Yeah. It
Let's go.
looks that way. And no
Yeah,
penalties, I don't think. The penalties, you haven't seen the false starts, so
yeah.
as much at
I
least.
know.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Burford's known to get a flag or two on occasion. But let's go to the running backs. Okay, Christian McCaffrey, DeAndre Swift, Kenneth Gainwell. They Bart Scott, not Bart Scott, Boston Scott. They kind of mixed it up a little bit over there, but DeAndre Swift is the lead back. And I got to say, fellas, DeAndre Swift is really freaking good. He's really good. I got to be honest. I thought he was dynamic coming out of Georgia. He went to Detroit, and it felt like he was always kind of banged up or kind of in the doghouse. Like they never truly featured DeAndre Swift. He goes to Philly. I think he's been running the ball really well. Although, hey, man, we got Christian McCaffrey. But, fellas, where you leaning, Niners or Eagles talking running back room? Amin.
He took off. He said, I'm gone. Never mind. Hey man, I think you know what? It's like it's almost like Jalen Hurts got to be kind of factored in as well, right? Like if you just look at the Eagles run game and our run game, because I mean it's obvious Christian McCaffrey is the best running back in the league right now. Behind Trent Williams and Aaron Banks and the way that Kyle calls it up, it just feels like, no one's matching CMC. But I'm curious. I was going to try to look it up, but I'm hecka slow on stuff. But I'm curious to see how many rushing yards the Eagles have total and how much we have total. And I feel like it's probably close. I wouldn't doubt it. With you mix in, Jalen Hurts in there, and I'm pretty sure, it's probably pretty similar. But of course, it's going to be CMC. Swift, he's kind of swift with it. He's kind of swifty.
By the way, they are very close, Celts. I got that stat for you here. The 49ers have 1,496 rushing yards. Eagles have 1,466. So there's only 30 yards separating
I know
these
it.
two teams.
I had that feeling. I had that feeling when you equal it out. Like that's what makes. I think that's the missing element with in today's football. Those are the teams. The team that's going to win the Super Bowl is probably going to have a run game, pass game, and defense, and good special teams. And you look at the Eagles. I mean, my God, Jake Elliott, 59-yarder in the freaking rain, and crunch time over one of the greatest kicks in NFL history, right? Like, it's weird because I was kind of rooting for it too. Like, of course, I'm rooting for the Bills. I couldn't even believe that I was pissed that the Eagles even got back into it. But in those moments, like, me, I like to see the history. I like to see the perfect, inning or, 3 home runs in the same game, whatever. I like all the stats like that. So I thought that was hella cool for Elliott. But yeah, man, you gotta have a full squad. I'm gonna definitely give the edge to us, Debo running the ball, because if I gotta factor in Jalen Hurts, I'm factoring in Debo. I'm
Good point.
factoring in the way Kyle schemes it up, just all of it. It's the edge to the Niners run game and CMC being, the head of that.
I agree with you there. I'm giving this one to the Niners and Christian McCaffrey. So, but why don't we switch it? I think this position is really tight between these two teams because they both got some stars at this position, and we're going to the wide receiver position. Obviously, with the Eagles, you got AJ Brown, you got Devontae Smith, Olamide Zaccheaus has been getting reps, and then Quez Watkins. Who I feel like he's hit us for a big player too in his day. The little fast receiver, Quez Watkins. How would you compare?
Was he on the Eagles last year, or not Eagles, the Chiefs last year? Was there a year he was on
No,
the Chiefs? The Bills,
I
maybe.
don't think so. I don't think so.
Watkins. All right, yeah, I'm off
I
on
don't
him.
think so. But obviously the Niners weapons, the Niners wide receivers, the Eagles wide receivers. There's a lot of talent there. And I think it's close. And I'll start it off first, Celts, because I'm gonna give it's a very slight edge, but I'm gonna give it to Philly. I'm gonna give it to Philly. As good as Brandon Ayuk has been, AJ Brown's been just as good. AJ Brown's been freaking awesome this year. AJ Brown reminds me of like Terrell Owens, Celts. Feels like that's just
It's a good comparison.
how
Yeah.
big, how strong he is, how good he is after the catch. Like AJ Brown's really freaking good. And I know BA's been awesome, but it's like I'll give up the tiniest of edge to AJ Brown there. And then Devontae and Debo, both those players are really freaking good too.
Come on. I mean, talk about opposites right there, right? Like, but in their own way,
True.
it kind of, man, there's a few things in my head, kind of like, I feel like if like McCaffrey wasn't here, I feel like Debo's numbers would obviously be way better. He'd be utilized way more. A part of me doesn't feel like Debo has like fallen off from what he did. I mean, he was our offense the year where he had his best year ever. He hasn't been called to be our entire offense anymore. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like the numbers, I feel like he is still that same dude. And I
He
feel like
showed it off last week.
I feel like the
He
team
balled
knows
out.
it.
Yeah.
I feel like Debo knows it, and the team knows it that we need the gas in the tank at the end. I know we're going stupid with CMC, but I feel like Debo is still. I feel like Debo, like if we minus 3 guys, we seen it. I think it was one game without Ayuk. I think it was the one game we didn't have Ayuk. And what did Debo do to the Giants? That was the Debo game. He was catching fade passes. He was running through 5 people because the 49ers knew we needed Debo in that game. I feel like we could do that any week with Debo, but I feel like Debo is going to shine the brightest in the freaking playoffs. That's going to be that main dude that's going to I don't know. I just feel that way. And of course, but like if I were to break it down, man, it's hard. It's hard because I feel like Debo is still that same dude. So I give the edge to Debo over uh Smith,
Devontae. Yeah.
Devontae Smith, and then I would probably give the edge to AJ Brown over Ayuk, even though I love Ayuk. You know, just being a homer, it's like what doesn't he do good? I know every so often there's like a drop. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, damn, those are those ones that kind of set him apart from other dudes. That's how I feel when I see some of those drops. But I'd give the slight edge. God, it feels like a tie.
You can, you can, you can
Without
say
being a
tie.
without being a homer. No, I'll give the slight edge to the Eagles. I'll give it to them. You know, but how do you feel? I mean, on the wide receivers.
I mean, I would take Brown over Debo Samuel. I mean, in terms of just being a pure receiver, because I've said this before, but I think a lot of Debo's success, and he's a dog, right? Don't get me wrong. But a lot of Debo's success is the way that Shanahan utilizes him, where it's just a pure receiver. I would rather have A.J. Brown, and I even think Brandon Ayuk is better as just a pure receiver than Debo Samuel is. So I would take A.J. Brown over Debo Samuel. Now, Devontae Smith and Brandon Ayuk is close. I think Ayuk is a better route runner, but like you said, Ayuk does drop some passes, man. He does have an issue with the drops a little bit. He does drop some passes. So, I mean, it's close, but I would lean a little bit towards the Eagles, especially looking at the top two. But if we're talking about just a wide receiver room in terms of depth, I mean, I would rather have Juwan Jennings over who they got over there, like Zacchaeus and Quez Watkins. Like, I would rather have a Juwan Jennings over who they got at wide receiver number 3. So, in terms of a whole unit of like the wide receiver room, I would probably lean the 49ers. But if we're talking about just those top two guys, the main two guys in Brown and Smith versus Debo and Ayuk, I would take Brown and Smith. Even though I think it's really close, I don't think it's
That's
close between.
close.
It's close. Like the biggest thing is just the Ayuk and Smith, right? It's like you lean a little bit towards Ayuk or you lean towards Smith because both of their guys are similar in production. Both of those guys are similar in terms of what they're able to do on a football field. But I think with the Brown and Debo, I think that's where it's a little bit. I would still take Brown over Debo Samuel, but Ayuk and Smith, it's a 50-50. Like you could go either way with that one.
Yeah, any four guys could go anywhere and shine. That's how I feel.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, let's round out the offense. It's the tight end position. I don't think there's much of a debate here. I'm rolling with the Niners, and I'm rolling with George Kittle. Hell, even Charlie Warner caught a ball last game, fellas.
Yeah.
Charlie Warner got in the mix and caught a
bro.
pass. I was looking around. I was like, is that Charlie Warner?
Yeah.
I was like, all right, Charlie caught it and ran a little bit.
Hey, the announcers were on it on like I think immediately, like kind
They
of like
were.
that's his first catch of the year, kind of. Like hey, I'm feeling the same. What hold up had a double look and all that. Like yeah, that was nice. That's nice to sprinkle in, you know, every once in a while, you know. So shout out Warner.
Absolutely. And then Dallas Goddard, I don't know if anyone has the latest news on Goddard. He's missed the last couple games. I don't know if he's going to be back this week.
Okay, so they haven't ruled him out officially, but he's more probable to return week 13 against the Cowboys than he is the 49ers, but they haven't officially ruled him out yet. There's still a possibility that he's back for the Niners game.
Man, I thought he had like a bad injury. It must have.
He was on IR. He's been on IR.
Yeah, what was it though? Like I thought it was like I thought he broke something
is it forearm?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I think it might be forearm.
He fractured something.
Yeah, I bet that probably heals a lot quicker. Like
yeah.
Dallas Goddard is a good player, and then who else they had? They got a guy named Stoll. I got their depth chart right here. They got a dude named Stoll who I haven't really been impressed with, and then they got big Albert Okwuenuanam. Try saying that name.
Okwuenuanam.
We are not saying that right. No. But anyway, we all agree. Edge to the 49ers at the tight end position. But guys, we're going to get to
Baller.
What's up?
Cameron Latu or Dallas Goddard, who's better? Is that the discussion? Ooh. Cameron Latu, 49ers tight end number 1 versus TBD. Dallas Goddard.
CBD. Willis. Where's Willis at? Is Willis still? Who knows? But yeah,
Willis
it's
has not been
What has he
been
been
active.
inactive, bro? Is Cam Lotto even on the
inactive.
team? I don't even know. Is he on the team still?
Nah,
Cam
yeah.
Latu,
Red
hopefully
shirt.
he is very close to a jugs machine at this time. You just want hopefully he's got
Yeah.
one in his living room and he's just catching off the jugs machine in the house. I would do it. I'd do something like that.
Definitely.
I mean, if you're making the money, like if you in the NFL, you making money, like why not?
I want to get to the defensive side of the ball because the D line, both these D lines, I think are really freaking good. Let me just toss some names out you for the Eagles just to give you a reminder. Hassan Reddick, we know what he did in that NFC Championship game. You got to know where Hassan Reddick is at all times, okay? Colton McKivitz, it's going to be a big task dealing with Hassan Reddick. And Kyle Shanahan, can I just remind you of one thing? Hassan Reddick does not care about playing the run. He's not falling for no play action. So don't leave him unblocked thinking that, oh, the play action is going to make him hesitate. No. Hassan Reddick is thinking quarterback. So we need to account for that. You got to help out Colton. You're not going to give him George Kittle or Kyle Juszczyk to chip every time. There's going to be some one-on-one reps where we're going to need Colton McKivitz to hold up. But I do want to help him with Hassan Reddick, who is just – he's really fast, he's really quick, and he's really good. But they got Reddick. They got Fletcher Cox, who he also was dinged up. I believe it's a groin. I don't know if he's going to be playing. They got the rookie Jalen Carter, who's freaking awesome. Josh Sweat is their other starter. And then kind of their bench guys are Brandon Graham, Jordan Davis, who's really big. And I think he kind of came up limping at one point in their last game.
I think it was Jalen Carter. Wasn't it Jalen Carter who got hurt, who's tracking down Josh Allen?
No, that was Jordan Davis.
Oh, that was Jordan Davis.
Okay. That was big Jordan Davis. Yeah. And Milton Williams, I think he's banged up too. So the Eagles are kind of banged up on the D line. Like they're good. They have good depth, but Fletcher Cox, Milton Williams, Jordan Davis, all dealing with something right now.
Yeah, I don't feel like they're as dominant as last year.
No, good point.
Yeah, definitely not. Man, I would run straight at Hassan Reddick. I don't know because I think that I've seen a few times just teams running straight at him, and it was, it was working. But yeah, so this is who is better out of the Niners and the Eagles right now. It's like last year, definitely the Eagles were right, and this year, and we're hot right now. Right now, we're getting hot. I mean, what a freaking breakout from Eric Armstead. We've been waiting for this, man. He's finally, and I heard him on his podcast talking to Ayuk, doing his thing, and he's like, man, I don't know. I find a little bit more appreciation when I hear these dudes talk for quite a minute, and just he was talking like, man, this time of the season, it's go time. It's go time. Like he's a vet, man, and this is the year. It's reminiscent of 2019. I can't remember the numbers he put up, but I think he's at 5.5 or something like that. Chase Young, of course. It's like just the addition of Chase Young. Everybody else is going to get a little bit better. It's the Bosa effect, but everybody's making everybody better now. Hey, look at the revenge, or if you want to call it that, but for Hargraves, what is Hargrave going to do versus the team that didn't want him? Is he going to kind of take it easy? Is he going to try to wreak havoc on Jason Kelce and show
he
Jason
knows
Kelce
these guys.
like, hey,
Hargrave knows these offensive linemen very well.
He's practiced versus these dudes, man. He knows these dudes' minds and tendencies and even the offense, just being around it. And maybe he's got some little intel on how to deal with the tush push, or
I know you posted something about that, Baller. You posted something about like take away the guys who are pushing, take away their legs. You posted something about it on Twitter, I remember.
I did. I think I have the way. It's not going to stop the tush push, but I think what gives you the best chance at stopping the tush push is to blow up the pushers. You got to take them out. And it sounds dirty. I'm not trying to play dirty. I'm not trying to injure the Eagles players. That's not my intent, but you need to stop them. And I think the best way to stop the pushers, because that a lot, even if you stop Hurts like initially, those pushers give him this second surge every time. So it's like you got to stop the second surge. So I want to send someone, probably a safety or a DB, to dive at these pushers' knees. And again, I'm not trying to injure him, but also you got to be making a play to like grab Hurts. I'm not saying go on a kamikaze mission just to blow up someone's ACL. No, take out their knees, because that's what, if they lose their leverage and lose their footing, they're not going to be able to push. So take out the knees, try to grab Hurts from like the side / like from coming in from behind. I understand it sounds kind of dirty. Maybe that's why teams haven't done it, but I'm saying I want to stop them. I'm competitive.
If it's a Super Bowl and it's one play and they're on the 1 yard line and here comes the freaking tush push. It's 3 seconds. They're about to just, man, dude, I'm bringing Trent Williams. I'm bringing my biggest bodies on the team, and I'm putting like my 4 or 5 biggest bodies. I don't care what position. You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm almost going to try to replicate the tush push the same way there's like 6 players all within that. But then on defense, you have to keep it a little spread out, because then they could just do a toss or do a flip the script on you. So it's hard to match what they're doing, because they could always flip it outside. But if I knew no matter what they were directly coming, I'm putting Trent. Who else is a big daddy? I'm putting Aaron Banks. I'm putting Kinlaw. I'm even linebackers. I might bring the big bodies, because the only way you're going to stop that is with the amount of force that they're using. They're using a lot of force. Even Jalen Hurts, he squats an outstanding amount. You get Kelsey and some of these other bigger dudes that they got, and you get all that momentum pushing. You got to match it. I feel like that's the only, because you dive on top. But I do like the outside thing too, to at least slow some of the momentum. Maybe get a guy on the outside and bring Kalia Davis. I don't know what Kalia Davis's squats are or how his body, I feel like he's a bigger dude. I feel like at some point we need that super big daddy, that Wilcox from, who was at the Patriots back in the day. We need that one.
Will Fork.
We need that one 350-pounder just for, because that's what the Eagles are doing. The Eagles are like, okay, it's getting thinner and faster and stronger in this wide 9 and around edges. Okay, watch this. Let's bring some old 1950 football back, like on it. Yeah, so it's unstoppable right now, though. And hey, man, that's part of their little superpower right there.
And we gotta watch the design runs though. Jalen Hurts has a lot of design runs up the middle. Sometimes on like second down situations. Sometimes even on first down. So like, I mean, if they do that, you got Jay Greenlaw there, you got Fred Warner there in the middle, but guys can't be missing tackles like that. Like guys gotta get, like, I think the Niners are like second in missed tackles this year. Like,
ouch.
Thanks.
It was those 3 games, man. I think it was crazy number. It was like 45 in 3 games. I couldn't believe it, because we've always been known to, got a little reckless, got a lot of arm tackles. Like guys were still flying around, but you just seen, I even seen Fred and Dre Greenlaw missing tackles. It was wild, just angles, the way, the aggressiveness, you're going to get kind of burnt sometimes, but we got it back on track. Hey, we gave up what? Just real quick, I think we gave up what, 3 points to the Seahawks, like from defense. Like, because I think one of them was on one of the field goals was special teams. We gave up a long kick return. They got a field goal out of it. Pick 6.
Right. That's right.
Like, we're clicking.
Absolutely. So, hey, fellas, now's the point where I'm going to ask you: who's got the edge in this game? What unit is better? Is it the Eagles D line? Is it the Niners D line? I'll kick it off first. With the addition of Chase Young and even Randy Gregory, who's been getting some snaps, I thought I'm giving the edge to the Niners defensive line. And while I kick it over to Amin, I'm going to look up the sack totals for each of these two teams, because, I mean, while pressures and hurries matter, man, sacks are what absolutely destroy drives. So, Amin, I want to hear your perspective. Who you giving the edge to on the D line? And I'll try to find that statistic.
I mean, you have the addition of Chase Young, you have the addition of Randy Gregory, who on most defensive lines would be a starter, but on this Niners defensive line, he's a depth guy, right? Which is like, this shows you how much talent we have on that defensive line. I'm leaning towards the Niners because of the addition of Chase Young. You look at it just like position for position. Chase Young, you have Nick Bosa on the other side. You have Javon Hargrave. You have Eric Armstead. I mean, those four guys over the Eagles. Like, the one guy that I am worried about is Hassan Reddick, Jalen Carter, who can, and Fletcher Cox, who can cause havoc. But on the other side of Hassan Reddick, like, Josh Sweat, he's all right. Like, he's not he's not a Chase Young. He's under Nick Bosa, and neither is Hassan Reddick a Nick Bosa or a Chase Young. So, in terms of the Niners, defensive line, I think.
Hassan Reddick ain't Nick Bosa, but
I mean,
Chase
he's
Young,
good. Like, I'm not.
Man.
I mean, Hassan Reddick is a good player, but he's not no Nick
he
Bosa.
keeps
And I don't
leveling
even
up.
think he's a Chase Young.
Kind of. Nah, he's definitely. I hear what you're saying though. I mean, because I feel the same way. But then,
Like, I don't think he's bad.
I feel
I'm
like
not saying
if
that Reddick is bad, but
I
he's
feel-
not Nick Bosa. He's not Chase Young. He's not in those tiers, right? Like, I feel like Nick Bosa, Miles Garrett, T.J. Watt, Max Crosby, in, like, let's say S tier, right? And then you could say Hassan Reddick is between A or B tier, but he's not an S tier pass rusher, in my opinion.
if I watched every single like snap of Hassan Reddick, I bet I'd have a little bit different opinion just because you're watching everything from Nick Bosa it immediately makes Nick Bosa's name feel bigger. But Hassan Reddick has been chipping away at it. It feels like, from his Cardinal days, he just got better and better. He got in the right place, and he's thriving. Like, I don't know how. I know he was one of the top guys last year, and you always do hear all the other names, and then you might hear his name. But, maybe it has to do with how he is versus the run, because the times I do see when teams run at him, that's why I was saying it earlier, hey, run at him, because I've only seen a few times, but every time I've seen it, I'm like, hey, I'm kind of scouting what we could do versus this dude, when
I like
watch
that.
him,
I like that philosophy because Hassan's also a smaller bodied guy too. He's not
exactly.
He's not a wide body guy. I think you can move him in the run game. Even Colton. So I think that's a really good point.
Yeah,
Attack Hassan
we could bring some pulls to where it's not just Colton. We could pull some. You know what I'm saying? I'm really, I want to see. Hey, I don't want nobody to get hurt. But if I had it my way to really just make it chippy, if there was no suspensions and no punches thrown, first play of the game, I want to see Jawan Jennings come down. I'll take a 15-yarder. If I know we're going to be in a rhythm after that 15, I will sacrifice a 15-yarder, not to hurt him, but to just crack block the crap out of one of their major DNs. Just for that, in Philly, like, we are coming. JJ, and it would be JJ would do something. The blind side. Hey, take the 15-yarder. Hey, instantly smack him in the mouth. Let him know we are here. You ain't messing. And that would also be saying you ain't getting to Brock this game, bro. We will crack block you if we got to. Like, we're
better keep your head on a swivel.
Hey,
after that, that'll kind of might make him hesitate for a half second and maybe take a peek and figure out where Jawan's at. Kelts, you're on fire today because that's a really good point. I want to do that same thing. Hey, light him up. Light him up.
While I'm at it, man, let's run on offense. Let's run the biggest pulling sweep. Let's go full jumbo, even though we never go hella big like that. Let's go full jumbo, a massive sweep, and accidentally take Sirianni out. Just have like 5 guys just flowing into the sidelines and not Sirianni get hurt, but just have him take a good fall and just, I thought of that too, man. I didn't know I was going to let it out, but I have thought about running a wide sweep and Sirianni getting broke or a JJ crack blocking.
If I'm the Niners, I'm watching what Saleh did on defense against Jalen Hurts. Like, Jalen Hurts struggled the entire game, like 3 interceptions against the Jets defense. Like, if I'm the Niners, I'm looking at what Saleh and that Jets team did against the Eagles, because surprisingly, the only quarterback that Jalen Hurts has lost to this year is Barry Baller's boy, Zach Wilson, which, if I told you that before the season started, I'm like, the only game Jalen Hurts is going to lose this year is not to Aaron Rodgers, but it's going to be to Zach Wilson. Like,
Zach Wilson.
I would have believed it. Hey, Bruce. Hey, the chat's live. So, hey, thank you guys for stopping by. Bruce said Cunningham got hurt yesterday. That's one of the linebackers. Hopefully, they don't sign Shaq Leonard. Reddit's between the Cowboys and the Eagles. At this point, like, I don't think you could. I mean, you could. We've seen players come in and on a very short rest, like what McCaffrey did last year when we got him. He played against the Chiefs, but even if you sign Shaq Leonard tomorrow, like I don't think that's making much of a difference.
Nah,
He wasn't playing very
look at
good
what
for the
Brock does. Look at what Brock does versus like a Levante David and a Devin White versus the Buccaneers. You know, just he's shown multiple times how he could run it in for a touchdown or layer it. How many times you see like one of their hands and the ball just, just right out their stretch, just picking them apart in zone, just like that's why I like, man, this offense. It feels like we're just not one dimensional. We could win in multiple ways, but yeah, I don't think they could have a couple of good linebackers, and I don't think it's going to swing, it too much. Even with the Shaq Leonard, he's good, but if it feels like he's probably declining, so maybe that's why they cut bait on it.
Hey, we're diving into the linebackers next. And this one, fellas, it ain't even close. Let's be real. Niners got the best linebacking core in the NFL. The Eagles line, I don't think this is not a strength of their team. When we're talking about Zach Cunningham and Nicholas Morrow, Christian Ellis, I think they might have some injuries there as well. But Niners linebacking core, best in the NFL. Eagles, I got to see more. I'm not going to say these guys are awful, but they ain't nowhere near as good as, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, even Oren Burks and Flanagan Fowles. When he comes in, he makes plays. So
the young guys, Nakobe Dean, Nolan Smith, they're young kids. Like they got him from Georgia last year. They're young kids. Like I mean, like you said, Ball, you got to see more from them. But Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw, best in the league,
hands down. Like. Yeah, no comment, no discussion, no. It is what it is. I mean,
let's round out the positional.
The back end.
We can finish it up. Yeah, with the DBs. I'll mention some of these names and then I'll kick it to you, Celts, because we know who the Niners got on the back end of the defense. But Darius Slay, the Eagles also brought in Kevin Byard, the safety. Reed Blankenship is the other safety, and then James Bradbury, who Debo said somebody said, hey, Debo, you called James Bradbury trash last year. Do you want to walk that back? Debo's like, no, I said what I said.
Yeah,
you see that?
Do you regret? Do you regret that? Is that a regret? Like,
do you know who you're talking to, dude? Like, come on.
Like,
man.
I don't regret nothing. Like, no, I mean, okay, like, yeah,
then,
man.
Roby's in the slot. But yeah, Celts, what do you think about?
I feel like
signed him like 2 weeks ago.
It feels like their D line is taking a step back, just like their backfield, or I mean their cornerbacks or secondary is taking a step back. Whether it's getting older. I seen some stats say something about, I'm trying to remember like how many touchdowns they give up, or it just feels like they're not really putting fear. I'm not hearing about a lot of picks. It doesn't feel like, they're just shutting really anybody down. I'm seeing it. I think that's why all their games are so close too. It feels like, they're giving up more points. I think that's just what it is. It's coming to the pass rush isn't as good. Maybe that's minus Hargrave at the same time. Maybe they're, they underestimated how good Hargraves was. And then, the other guys are getting a little bit older, and that's all it takes in this league. It's going to switch, pretty dang quick. It could be 2-3 years later, and that once ultimate dominant, team ain't so dominant no more. In this case, it was like a year later, they're not as dominant as last year, but they still got talent. I love the way the 49ers are playing right now. I'm just looking at it right now. I'm not thinking about Oliver being there. None of that. Ambry is knocking it out the park. Lenore is finding a home in the slot. And that's hella cool that Lenore can. Now we got that utility dude. We know he could play on the outside. We know he could play on the inside. I love that. Ward, I feel like Ward is the best versus guys like DK Metcalf, AJ Brown. Yeah, he's just suited better versus a bigger dude, not the smaller, shiftier dude. So I know I'm talking more about matchups, but hey, I'm taking the 49ers DBs right now. Jair Brown, got high hopes for him. Gibson has always been a wily vet. It's not like we're over here. He might not be doing spectacular stuff, but it doesn't feel like, Gibson's just giving up, you know, a handful of plays every game. So I just feel like we're hella solid right now. And then that's also, kudos to the defensive line as well for how all of our defensive linemen have kind of woke up. So it's hand in hand. Niners are defense are on fire right now. I'm going Niners secondary.
I mean, the way this Niners secondary is playing right now compared to where the Eagles secondary is playing right now, I would take this Niners secondary the way that they're playing right now. But it's tough. Like Darius Slay, James Bradbury. Slay is a Pro Bowler. James Bradbury was a Pro Bowler. He's solid. The two guys that I'm confident with the Niners are obviously Charvarius Ward and Mooney. I mean Charvarius Ward and then De'Amon Lenore, who, like Kelt said, can play on the inside and the outside. But I mean, Isaiah Oliver, there's questions about him. Ambry Thomas, he's too inconsistent. Like, he has the picks, right? He got the pick against the Rams. He had the pick against the Seahawks. He played fine against the Seahawks. But still, Ambry Thomas, inconsistent. Safeties, I would probably take. Even safeties now, with the addition of Kevin Byard, and Reed Blankenship, he led the league in interceptions at one point. He was playing really darn good in the beginning of the season. It's really close. Like this is like it's really close. It's like the Jalen Hurts Brock Purdy thing. Like it's really close. You can lean either way. I don't know. I'm gonna say it's a tie. Like the Niners got they got dogs on the DBs with Mooney and De'Amon Lenore. And then as much as Bradbury has been struggling, he was a Pro Bowl corner for the Giants, and he's still a solid corner. Like as a cornerback too, he's a really solid cornerback too. And then Darius Slay, Pro Bowler, really darn good cornerback. I mean, top 5 in the league. It's tough. I'm gonna say it's a tie. I know it's a cop-out answer, but I'm gonna say it's a tie. It's really close.
I feel you. No, it is close. It is close. And when it's close, I'm leaning Niners. I'm going Niners, and let me tell you why. The Eagles, they got 2 players that are getting a lot of reps in that secondary that weren't even on the team a month ago. I feel like in the secondary, communication and kind of camaraderie is just huge in the secondary. So Calvin, I'm talking about Kevin Byard, as well as the slot corner Bradley Roby. Both those guys, they haven't been around very long. I saw them miscommunicate at least once this past week against the Bills and gave up a chunk play. I wanted to say it was to Gabe Davis, but I'm rolling with the Niners. Charvarius Ward, we know how talented he is. He had a little 3-game stretch where he was getting flagged too much, but he's cleaned that up. The coverage was awesome against DK Metcalf with all the pass breakups and just the sticky coverage. Ambry Thomas has really secured that CB2 position where, when Oliver was on the field, it felt like teams were going after him. And now Ambry, he's a playmaker. He's intercepting passes. He's knocking balls away. So shout out to Ambry. And like you said, Kelts, Gibson's he's just a pro. He's in the right spot at the right time. Jair Brown, and, in kind of this game and a half I've seen from him, has played good. What have you, I feel like he's taking the right angles. He's in the right spot. Have you seen anything from Jair the last game? Like he's not screwing up, but I wouldn't say he had the interception.
He's holding it down. He's holding it down. It's all I can ask from someone like Jair Brown right now. Like, of course, I want to just see him be spectacular right away, right? But all I want to see from Jair Brown is don't get stupid penalties, don't get burnt big, just kind of fill in. Like if you just do those little things, just play sound football, because then the other things are going to come. I mean, we've seen it in the first few opportunities. A ball's going to find good players. And that happened all through college. Sometimes you're like, holy crap, he's got, 26 takeaways and so many every years. And you're like, and you watch every single one of them, and you see it with some of the greatest players. Like, they're not making every single one of them, but sometimes just the right spot, the lucky bounces, it just kind of it seems to find certain guys, and it seems like that was kind of a thing with Tufunga as well, and of course Jair Brown. It's going to come for him, I feel like, and I feel like he's been doing solid, and that's all you kind of ask for from a rookie stepping in, you know, um, midway through the season. So good job by him. I want to look at it more in depth, though. I do want to, I've been slacking on my macking on the all 22, but the fire is burning to go watch that stuff real soon here.
Yeah, I have a feeling you're definitely going to want to watch
Oh yeah,
this Niners Eagles game back because it's going to be a
oh
playoff
yeah.
like atmosphere. Uh, hey, Kelch, I want to ask you if you got like a key to the game because I got one. I'll start it off because I feel like my key to the game, whoever runs the ball better, whoever runs it more efficiently, can attempt more runs, kind of controls. I think that's who's going to win this game, Kelts. Whoever's running the rock with success. We talked about McCaffrey, DeAndre Swift. Swift is playing some really freaking good ball. McCaffrey's playing like the best back in the league. And I feel like the run game is going to be important, kind of to slow down some of these D lines, right? We talked about the D line. There's a lot of talent on both of these defensive lines. Whoever runs the ball, controls the clock, I think is going to have quite an edge on coming out victoriously.
I agree. I think for me, I think whatever quarterback is most comfortable. And that's not even necessarily saying what pressure they get, because we've seen times where there's someone in Brock Purdy's lap and he still looks ice in the veins. That man got ice. He still looks calm, composed. And it's hella rare to be calm, composed, and look smooth, but play hella quick. He's still moving hella quick, but it looks smooth and flawless, and just it's spicy, but got it's just it's nice. It truly is, and I feel like whoever plays, whatever quarterback is more calm. I feel like if you start seeing, sometimes you see Jalen Hurts get a little, I don't want to say jittery, but maybe just kind of lackadaisical or just maybe too calm, and then all of a sudden it's a pick or a fumble. And it's just like, but then we've seen Brock Purdy get a little maybe forceful. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes just only a few times where we've seen him get forceful in a couple of those games. I feel like whatever quarterback makes like the least mistakes, I'll say that. So I could say turnovers, coming down to turnovers, whichever one. But then it's a trip because then we seen Jalen just do it, but then still score 5 touchdowns. You know what I'm saying? So I just think if Brock gets comfortable, keep him upright. Hey, he could take a few sacks, but just as long as he's calm, as long as during the rest of it, he's able to go through some of his reads. And then I would also say go quick. Get the ball in Debo's hands. At least get a rhythm going quick. Don't get cute with some long play actions. And if you are, maybe a bootleg running completely away from one of the dudes. Like, don't like the first couple of series, I almost don't want to see any turn in the back play action. You know what I'm saying? Just like at first, even though I know it's kind of our bread and butter. But I would go quick, hit him with CMC, mix in Debo with some little trick, not trickery, but just, scheme it up, get some stuff pulling around, get the run game going, hit up Ayuk quick. Even if it is, I know we love to see Ayuk get the 40 catches for 45 yards, or 40 catches, 40 first downs in 45 catches. Almost every time it's like 20 yards. You know what I'm saying? Hey, throw a 7-yarder to, get everybody kind of involved. Everybody, and get it flowing. Just get first downs, keep Purdy upright, and whatever quarterback makes the least amount of mistakes, I think is going to win.
I like that. I like that. And I want to make Jalen Hurts uncomfortable because you're right. The last couple weeks, the Chiefs, yesterday against the Bills. You get bodies around him, you blitz him at the right time, you get some pressure. He doesn't quite see the field quite
Mm-hmm.
as clearly as he
Yeah.
does, when he has clean pockets and no bodies around him. So
They look very
I'll,
beatable when you see him getting the look. And it's not like a jittery G, but there's a certain uneasiness to it, right? It feels like you said, all of a sudden, like he might be thinking about running, but wanting to keep, and just something feels a little bit off. That's why I said earlier, when it comes to Purdy just making his reads, but then it's almost like Purdy's able to make his reads while simultaneously knowing how to shift within the pocket or when it is time to go and when it isn't. It feels like no one does it better than Brock. Like, and that's not saying he's the best in NFL, but just in that realm of what I'm talking about, I've been watching a lot of quarterbacks just to make sure I'm not tripping on what I'm seeing from Brock. And the man is good. The
he's
man is
special.
freaking. It's
He's
freaking awesome,
special.
bro. The whole story. He's so special.
It feels good to know that like, you got your quarterback, man.
Yeah, it does.
It feels good. And hey, and it also feels good when you got Amin the Dream back in the building. Amin, we're about to wrap up here pretty soon, but we both gave some keys to the game. I talked about whoever runs the ball, I think is going to win this game. Whoever can run it efficiently and kind of take some of the pressure off the O line and pass blocking. Kelts was talking about the quarterback, whoever looks comfortable and takes care of the ball. The turnover game. But what key do you have to this game? I mean,
I'm gonna say whoever can stop the run, because if you really think about it, Jalen Hurts with his design quarterback runs. You look at the Eagles with the tush push, right? Like if you could stop, you could stop Jalen Hurts with those design quarterback runs. You could try to, not you can't really stop the tush push, but try to you know, I don't know how, you can't.
If
really
they listen to me, they can.
I mean, it's risky, right? Because if you do dive at someone's knees and they do end up getting hurt, then the Niners will be flagged as like a dirty football team or whatever, right? But I'm still saying, you got to do what you got to do to win, but at the same time, I would never want to injure someone to end up winning. But I know you're not saying that, but I'm just saying it's still really risky. But whoever can stop the run,
fair.
I want to take them all out. Just take them all. No. Go ahead.
but whoever can stop the run, you got to get after Jalen Hurts. So the pass rush, because I'm if you look at realistically speaking, I'm definitely worried about the offensive line holding up against the Eagles' defensive line, but the Niners, I'm actually confident that Niners' defensive line will go up against the Eagles' offensive line, because Chase Young was, working on Jordan Mailata when he was in Washington, and he was doing his thing against Jordan Mailata. But now you have Nick Bosa; he's got to do his thing. Hargrave, you got to do your thing. It's your revenge game coming back to Philly, so that defensive line has to step up and get pressure after Jalen Hurts. Because when the Jets did that, Jalen Hurts had three interceptions. He was making mistakes. He didn't know where to go with the football, right?
Hey, that's what I'm talking about.
If your defensive line does that, which you have the capability to do that, if Chase Young was doing it, he was working on Jordan Mailata when he was in Washington. He was doing his thing over there. And then you have Nick Bosa, Hargrave, Armstead. You guys got to also do your thing. If you guys do your thing and get after Jalen Hurts, this would be a pretty. I'm not gonna say it's gonna be an easy win, but it definitely makes your life a whole lot easier. It makes your life a whole lot easier. And I remember the NBC guys saying it. They were like, what makes this Niners defensive line so good is that they don't have to blitz to create pressure, right? And if you do that against the Eagles, where you don't have to blitz them, you just create pressure with your four guys. I mean, it'll make your life a whole lot easier. So pass rush, you got to bring your A game. Nick Bosa, Hargrave, Armstead, Chase Young, y'all got to do your thing. Y'all gotta create pressure, make Jalen Hurts uncomfortable, make him get the ball out fast. Offensively, my favorite game I've ever seen Kyle Shanahan probably coach in my entire life, just in terms of what he was doing offensively, was when he played the Saints. And that Saints game in 2019, when he played the Saints, the same year we went to the Super Bowl, Kyle Shanahan was in his bag. And it was an offensive battle that entire game. And this game could be an offensive battle. So Kyle Shanahan, I need you in your bag. I need you to pull out tricks that we've seen you pull out before. I need you to bring your A+ game, right? And if Kyle Shanahan's able to do that, pass rush is able to do their thing. I mean, I'm not even worried. I think this could go either way, but I don't know. I have this little bit of confidence in my team, even though we're riding high. I think it's not a playoff game, but I definitely think both the teams, the Niners and the Eagles, know like they have some bad blood between each other, and both teams I think are going to come ready to play. But Niners pass rush got to be there. Kyle Shanahan got to be in their bag, and then Brock Purdy. Just don't make mistakes, right? You've done it before. Just don't make mistakes. As long as you play a clean game, you do your thing. Don't have pick sixes and make mistakes and throw interceptions. I mean, I think we'll be fine, but it'll be a dogfight. It'll be a fun one Sunday. I mean, I have a teacher at school who's a Philadelphia Eagles fan. Me and him ain't talking this week until after. Me and him ain't talking this week. So me and him got some issues for this week. But hopefully the Niners come out with a victory. Otherwise, Monday will not be fun at school. So yeah, Niners get it done. Niners get it done. That's all I'm gonna say.
Especially the teacher. Yeah, man. Yeah, we got to get it now. We got to. We can't have a teacher coming at a mean sideways.
Hell no, to the no, 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 yeah, to the no.
Hell
You can't have an
Yeah.
Eagle. Like,
Yeah.
how did the school district?
Hey, the
How
funny
that?
thing is he's been having these like slight jabs. I mean, like he
Oh,
was
no.
talking about like he's
A
like,
grown man. Shame on him.
He was talking about like presentations. We have a presentation for our final, and he's like you got to have like a certain amount of points on your presentation, and like he like listed a certain number, and I'm like, was that a jab at how many points the Niners scored at the NFC Championship game last year? And he started smiling a little bit. I'm like, okay, I see how it is. Okay. Like when the Niners were on a 3-game losing streak, like it was not fun. When the Niners were on a 3-game losing streak, he was like, I heard they have like a counseling session for all the Niners fans because y'all going through it. He was having fun with it. He was having fun with it when we were losing. His whole thing, he had this like whole mantra. He's like, Jalen Hurts is gonna make the 49ers hurts. It's like it's really cringy, but he's like Jalen Hurts is gonna make the 49ers hurt on Sunday. Like it's really bad, but like Niners gotta get it done. Like I need to have fun on Monday morning. Like I gotta go on Monday morning with how the Niners walk into the games like the boombox, Debo jumping up and down. Like that's how I want to walk into school on Monday morning. So Niners, get it done, please.
Cry, Eagles, cry. Hey, man. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. Hey, man, my very first instinct was like, dude, this is going to be a shootout. And then we would wind up seeing it versus the Bills. Before the Bills game and the Eagles, I was like, bro, I wouldn't be surprised on like 34-31. And then I was kind of like, man, I'm not giving our D enough credit, man. And it just, like I said earlier, it wouldn't surprise me, like, if they played 10 games, if it would be even, because I want to be fair. Hey, the Eagles are a tremendous team, but just the matchups and just the way I feel like we're not going to play with this one, like, at all. I feel like everybody on our team wants it, is going to want it more for whatever reason. And I just would not be surprised at 31 and at the most 20. But I feel like it could be. I think last week I said 31-10. I was 3 points off, man. We made our predict, but I wouldn't like I could see 31-14, 31-17. Like it just I don't think
If we could beat the Eagles 31 like 20, or if we could beat the Eagles, this
man.
team, like I'm not even like realistically speaking on the AFC, outside of the Ravens, like the Chiefs has been whatever this year. I mean the Bills they're 10th in the AFC right now. All the teams that we were talking about in the offseason, right? Like the Chargers, the Bills, the
Beatable.
Bengals,
Dolphins.
the Chiefs,
All
right? Like
beatable.
even the Dolphins. I'm not even worried about the Dolphins because honestly, like I don't really trust Tua. I think Tua makes bad decisions. I don't really trust Tua's decision making. Him going up against the Niners defense, I don't think it would be a fun night for him. I really don't. And he struggled against us last time. I do not think it would be a fun matchup. Even the Lions got a good defense, but Jared Goff, like we've played him with the Rams before. We beat him on the Rams, and if you really realistically think about it, like Sean McVay, I would say, like I mean, it's debatable, but I think Sean McVay is a better OC than who they got down in Ben Johnson, who they got with the Lions. Now, Ben Johnson definitely deserves a head coaching job next year. He's a really good offensive coordinator, but we've beaten Jared Goff before. We've made him look bad before. He struggled against the Niners defense before. The Niners defense, you could argue, is better than what it was when Jared Goff was on the Rams in 2020, 2021. So, like, he struggled before against us. Like, I'm not worried about the Lions. If you could beat the Eagles, you can make it to the Super Bowl this year, and you could even win the Super Bowl because the AFC is really not it this year. Like, it's not as much as everybody thinks the AFC is that much better of a division. They got better teams, but the AFC is not something I'm really worried about. If you could beat the Eagles, the Niners have a really good shot at winning the Super Bowl as long as they play to the caliber that they're, that we're accustomed to seeing them play when they're at their best.
What's your score prediction? I mean,
I'm gonna say 30-24. Niners get it done.
30-24. Okay. That leaves me. I think it's going to be a tight one, real tight. So I'm going 24-23. Niners pull it out. I think it's going to be a slugfest. It's going to be physical. It's going to have a playoff atmosphere. Hey, fellas, we'll kick it around one last time before we say goodbye. Any final thoughts on the matchup or what you got going, what you got cooking up on your channel? Everyone, hey, the chat's been live. Appreciate it. Hit the like. Make sure you're subscribed to all these guys. The link's in the description. But let's kick it to you guys kind of on the way out. Final thoughts. Anything you got?
Man, we got to just hit him in the mouth right away. Don't get cute. Just don't do nothing extra, I guess. Just hey, play our brand, stay healthy, protect everybody. I feel like if we play our ball, we can only really beat ourselves. I mean, I feel like we're the best complete team in the NFL. Just like basically what Amin was just saying, just top to bottom, coaches included. I feel like we have the best squad in the NFL. It's just kind of, there's just that hump. You got to win it. You got to win it. I know luck's involved a little bit and all that stuff, but hey, we got the team to do it. And like Amin was talking about, the door is a little bit more wide open. It's like I feel like we're the best team in the NFL, and there's not one other like super dominant team that's like, oh man, this team right here. Because I feel like the Eagles look beatable. You know what Amin was saying. The Dolphins look beatable. Kansas City looks beatable. And of course, teams probably view us like that as well. Hey, if they're missing a piece or two, definitely beatable. But I feel like this is our year. I know I've been saying that the past couple years, but it feels closer and 2019, and then 2021 felt better than that. 22 felt a little bit closer than that. And it's like at some point in time, you got to break through unless you're the Bills from the 90s, and we're definitely not the Bills from the 90s. And it's time, man. Hey, hit me up, Celts Chronicles, straight out of the Bay. Everybody here, me and the Dream, Bay Area Baller, Jay in the Bay as well. We appreciate all y'all. Much love. Peace.
Amin.
Niners get it done this Sunday, and then we're going to wrap it up with a Go Lakers. And that's it. That's all I got to say.
Oh, no. Wait, where's it at? I need something. Hell no.
Hell no. To the no, no, no. Yeah, to the no.
Amin really tried to end the show on a Go Lakers.
I mean, that's what better way is there to end the show?
Hell no. To the no, no, no. Yeah, to the no.
Yeah. Right, baby. You see it. he did it.
Amin is no longer with us for that showing love to the Lakers on stream. So Amin, we appreciate you. Appreciate your contributions. No, I'm just playing. I can't do Amin like that. Although, don't say the L word again. Just don't do it.
For 4-0 in the in-season tournament.
Hey, no, but honestly, what I want to hear is like your like awkward, weird bang bang Niner gang you do. That's pretty much what
hey, Brock Purdy.
Highlight.
Brock Purdy, I think he said it after. I'm sure he said it before, but I heard him say after I think the Seahawks game. It was when it was just him and the phone or whatever, and it just reminded me of Amin. Hey, Brock Purdy said it. Hey, you're not alone, Amin. Brock Purdy almost said it very similarly.
Amin almost says it like a question. He says it like it's a bang bang Niner gang.
Niner gang.
I try to do it like E40. I try to have the E40 voice, but I don't really got it. Like I try to do
it's hard.
voice.
E40 is hard. My Skrilla, my scratch, my paper, my Skrilla. Yeah, boy.
Bang bang Niner gang.
That's what I needed right there. Hey,
Bang, bang,
chat.
Niner gang.
Thanks for coming
Bang,
through.
bang,
Hit the
Niner
like
gang.
on the way out. We got a big time game coming up here on Sunday. Stay tuned. We'll be back 1 week from now. Hopefully, Jay's with us next week. We get him back. But hey, shout out to all y'all in the chat. Thanks for stopping by. Kelts, hit him with the yee.
Yee! Ski!